It was the summer of 2012, and I was 10 years old when my family moved to Charleston, South Carolina. At the time, I didn't understand why we left our old life behind. All I knew was that our new house felt strange, too big, too quiet. But the most peculiar thing about the neighborhood wasn't the house. It was the playground. Just down the road, nestled between crumbling fences and leaning oak trees, was an old playground. The swings creaked with every gust of wind, their chains rusted and worn. The slide was coated in grime, and weeds snaked up the poles of the jungle gym. To any adult, it looked abandoned, a forgotten relic of some happier time. To me, though, it was a magical escape. From the moment I saw it, I was drawn there. I spent hours running across the cracked pavement, imagining it as a castle, a pirate ship, or a jungle. It didn't matter that the swings groaned or that the merry-go-round screeched when I pushed it. To me, it was perfect. One evening, just as the sun was setting and the sky burned a deep orange, I came running back to the house, my shoes caked in dirt. "Mom, I made a new friend." I shouted, breathless with excitement. My mom barely looked up from her unpacking. "That's nice, Lily," she said absently. "His name is Toby," I continued, undeterred. "He's really funny. He said he used to live here a long time ago." Mom nodded, muttering something about dinner. I didn't care that she wasn't paying attention. I was just eager to return to the playground the next day. Over the next few weeks, I talked about Toby constantly. My parents thought he was imaginary, and at first, I believed that too. But Toby felt real, more real than any imaginary friend I'd ever had. He had a face, a voice, even a smell like wet leaves and rust. I could picture him perfectly. A pale boy with dark, hollow eyes, his clothes tattered and stained with dirt. He says he knows all the secrets of the playground. I told my dad over dinner one night. Dad smiled indulgently. "Maybe Toby's been around for a long time, huh?" "Yeah," I agreed. He says he used to play there all the time. One rainy evening, I returned from the playground soaked to the bone. My clothes were streaked with mud, and my hands were trembling as I held up a rusted toy truck. Toby told me to dig it up. I whispered. My mom looked at me sharply. "What do you mean, Lily? Where did you find that?" I pointed out the window toward the playground. The rain blurred the view, but even through the downpour, I could see the hole I had dug. It was deep, deeper than I should have been able to manage with my small hands. Mom didn't say anything else that night, but the next morning, she was on the phone. I didn't understand much of the conversation, only that she was talking to someone about a missing boy and unmarked graves. A few days later, 2 men in uniforms came to our house. They asked me a lot of questions about Toby. What he looked like, what he said, where he told me to dig. I didn't like the way they spoke, like they didn't believe me. When they left, Mom sat me down and explained something I didn't fully understand. A long time ago, she said, there was a boy named Toby who lived in this neighborhood. He disappeared when he was about your age. They found him in the playground, but no one knows how he died. I stared at her, trying to process her words. But he's my friend. He's not gone. He talks to me all the time. Mom's face paled, and she didn't say anything else. After that, I wasn't allowed to go to the playground anymore. Dad started driving me to a newer one on the other side of town, but it wasn't the same. It didn't have Toby. The nights were the worst. I would wake up to the sound of the wind rattling my window, and for a moment, I would think it was Toby knocking, asking me come play. Sometimes, I could swear I heard his voice, soft and distant, calling my name. "Lily, come back." We moved away not long after. My parents didn't tell me why, but I overheard them talking late one night. "It's not safe," Mom said. "I don't want her anywhere near that place." Even after we left, I couldn't escape Toby. He visited me in my dreams, his pale face hovering just at the edge of the darkness. "We'll play again someday," he always said, his voice soft and cold. Years have passed since then, and I've tried to forget about Charleston, the playground, and Toby, but some nights, when the wind howls through the trees, I still hear him calling, "Lily, come back." It had only been a week since my family moved into the new apartment complex near the edge of Brooklyn, a place most people avoided mentioning. I didn't know why at the time, but everyone in the neighborhood seemed to avoid the old, crumbling orphanage that loomed a few blocks away. As a curious 10-year-old, I didn't pay much attention to whispered warnings or strange looks. I just wanted to play. That evening, I was at the park across the street, the sun setting behind jagged rooftops. I was swinging high, letting the breeze tangle my hair, when I saw them, children. They darted past the trees, laughter like tiny bells floating on the wind. At first, I thought they were kids from a neighborhood, maybe trying to play a game without including the new girl. "Wait!" I called, hopping off the swing. My sneakers slapped against the concrete as I chased after them. They didn't stop, didn't look back. Instead, they ran toward the orphanage. The closer I got, the heavier the air seemed, almost like the building was breathing. I should have turned around. My mom always said not to go anywhere alone, especially not to places she hadn't approved. But I was stubborn. The front door of the orphanage was ajar, creaking softly as it swung on rusty hinges. I hesitated only for a moment before slipping inside. The air inside was icy, carrying the smell of mildew and something faintly metallic. My footsteps echoed, each creak of the floorboards startling me. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly, lined with peeling wallpaper and broken furniture. And then I heard it, a voice. "Stay hidden or you'll never leave." It was soft, almost playful, but it sent a shiver racing down my spine. Turning the corner, I froze. There she was, a nun or what was left of one. Her face was pale, almost translucent, and her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. She glided between the shadows, her movements impossibly smooth. Around her, the children gathered, their faces blurred as if they didn't quite belong in this world anymore. They were playing hide and seek. I don't know how long I stood there, watching. The nun counted aloud, her voice echoing unnaturally. The children scattered, vanishing into the shadows. I wanted to run, to scream, but my feet wouldn't move. When her glowing eyes flicked toward me, I bolted. Back home, I tried to tell my parents, but they only exchanged worried glances. "You've got such an imagination," my mom said, brushing my hair back. "Maybe no more scary movies before bed." I wanted to argue, but my older brother, Sam, interrupted. "I'll check out tomorrow," he said, ruffling my hair. "There's no such thing as ghosts." He didn't believe me. No one did. The next night, Sam followed me to the playground. I tried to convince him not to go near the orphanage, but he rolled his eyes. "You're just scared," he teased. "I'll prove there's nothing to worry about." I stayed by the swings, watching him approach the building. He called out, his voice echoing in the silence. Then he disappeared. I ran to the orphanage, shouting his name. No answer. My heart raced as I stepped inside again, the cold air wrapping around me like a vice. This time, the whispers were louder, coming from every direction. "Stay hidden." I followed the sound of faint laughter, climbing a creaky staircase to the upper floors. The shadows seemed to move on their own, flickering just out of sight. I found Sam in the attic, his face pale and his eyes wide with fear. He was surrounded by the ghostly children, their blurred faces now clearer, hollow eyes and twisted grins. The nun appeared behind them, her smile cold and sharp. "You want to play?" she asked, her voice dripping with mockery. I didn't answer. Instead, I did the only thing I could think of. I played along. "I'll count," I said, my voice trembling. "You all hide." The children hesitated, glancing at the nun. She nodded once, her glowing eyes narrowing. They scattered. As soon as they were gone, I grabbed Sam's hand and pulled him to his feet. We ran, our footsteps echoing loudly in the empty halls. The whispers grew louder, angry. "Stay hidden." We made it to the front door, but it slammed shut before we could escape. The nun was there, her figure looming impossibly tall. "You can't leave," she hissed. Desperation fueled my next move. I grabbed a rusted candlestick from a nearby table and hurled it at the stained glass window above the door. The glass shattered, and moonlight flooded the room. The nun shrieked, her form flickering like a dying flame. I didn't wait to see what happened next. Sam, and I scrambled to the broken window, cutting our hands and knees on the shards. We didn't stop running until we were back home. The orphanage burned to the ground that night. I don't know how, but I heard the neighbors talking about an unexplained fire. Part of me was relieved, thinking the ghosts were finally gone. But now, years later, I'm not so sure. Sam, and I still hear whispers in our dreams. They're faint, almost drowned out by the hum of everyday life. But they're there, stay hidden, and sometimes late at night, I catch a glimpse of glowing eyes and shadows.